The tragedy of Nigeria began in 1986.
Okay, so before I continue that video, I would like to tell you a little story just to buttress the point made or the statement made by the former Minister of Communications of Nigeria in 1982 to 1983 and former Minister of Agriculture and Food Security of Nigeria in 2015 to 2019, Minister Audu Ogbe of blessed memory. Now, in 1986, they introduced what we call SAP, Structural Adjustment Program. What that does to us, I'll just give you a storyline just to give you the knowledge of what he meant by the tragedy of Nigeria began in 1986. Let's go. In the early 1980s, the Oguche family was living well in Lagos. Mr. Oguche worked in government office. Madam Oguche stayed at home but bought imported rice, milk and clothes for the children. Now the children attended good schools and the family even dreamed of buying a second car. Life was sweet because Nigeria was making money from oil. But suddenly, oil prices crashed. Nigeria started earning less money. The government was broke and Mr. Oguche's salary couldn't cover the family's need anymore. So in 1986, General Babangida brought in the Structural Adjustment Program, SAP. The Oguches began to feel the impact. How? One, devaluation of the Naira. Before the introduction of Structural Adjustment Program, 1 Naira could buy $1. After the Structural Adjustment Program, 4 Naira, 5 Naira, and later 10 Naira was needed for $1. Madam Oguche could no longer afford imported rice and milk. 2. Subsidy removal. Transport fares doubled because fuel prices increased. The children started trekking to school some days. 3. Import liberalization. Shops were filled with foreign clothes and second-hand goods, popularly known as okrika. Local tailors and textile factories in Kaduna started closing down. 4. Privatization. Mr. Oguche's friend lost his job when the government sold the company where he worked. Jobs became fewer while job seekers increased. Cuts in government spending. Hospitals had fewer drugs because government is no longer buying drugs to subsidize for the people anymore. School fees went up and the Oguche's family struggled to keep all their children in school. How did the family now react to all these things? 1. Madam Oguche returned to the village to farm cassava and yam because imported food was too expensive. Mr. Oguche started a small side business. He was selling a kerosene. Someone who works in government office. Their eldest son dropped out of school to learn a trade because school fees has gone up. Their daughter, who was so brilliant, got a scholarship abroad and later refused to return. Brain drain. The lesson. Now, the Oguche family story was like the story of millions of Nigerian families during the Structural Adjustment Program. The rich few got richer, buying government companies because government have to sell those companies out. That was the idea that was sold to them by the International Monetary Fund and World Bank. The poor majority suffered from rising prices and fuel opportunities. The Nigeria's economy adjusted on paper, but ordinary people paid the price with their sweat and tears. That is why even today, when you mention Structural Adjustment Program, SAP, many Nigerians remember hardship. Many Nigerians remember hunger. Many Nigerians remember struggle. Let's continue on the story.
When we did the Structural Adjustment Program, when we were persuaded to devalue our currency every week for 32 years. When I went to school, and many of you are here, the Naira was $1.50. The Naira was almost £1 sterling. They came here, persuaded some brilliant men from Harvard and the World Bank that weekly devaluation was wonderful. 32 years of devaluing your currency until we hit 527. And they were still telling us that the Naira was still overvalued. That brought poverty, misery upon us. Then interest rates went to 30%. So nobody could build a factory, start a farm, produce anything, or create jobs. Because every time you bring in a shipload of rice, you also bring in a shipload of unemployment. Because you are transferring your wealth to sustain other economies. Somehow, Nigerians didn't notice it. So we became a nation of importers. Toothpicks. Toothpicks. Each year it cost us $18 million. Importing toothpicks. Tomato paste, $400 million. You talked about tomatoes now. One basket in town now is less than 2,000 naira. The farmers are losing money because the processors don't have enough funds to set up factories. You are going to do tomato paste, it's food-grade stainless steel. You can't just use anything because you'll be putting poison in people's stomachs. 2 factories have started off. I believe by the middle of next year, we can comfortably tell importers of tomato paste to stop. But when you do, you make enemies. Even the rice we're trying to reduce, we have enemies, heavy enemies, people who can kill if they have a chance, because you're spoiling their business. And let nobody take it lightly. These guys have seized this country's economy, they've taken us hostage, and they have no intention of giving up. Because this is a huge market, a very sweet market, and they have taken control. This regime is unpopular in part because it is trying to cut down imports and transfer the wealth to our rural people. And I'm saying it because I have been in this business for 41 years and I can tell you some history. Abdullah Adamu is here. Import, milk, sugar, toothpicks, toothpaste, handkerchiefs, pencils, we don't make. To cure Nigerians of that malady will take a while. It will take a strong government. That's the truth. And they're not happy that we're cutting down. When we cut down, they lose money there. So you see all sorts of publications. We're telling lies. We're not growing rice. We're trying to demoralize the local farmers and make sure that the economy fails. That's the story of imports. Now, I read a story recently in the newspapers. The French ambassador, the champagne ambassador in Nigeria, gave an article to The Guardian. He said Nigerians love life. We are the biggest consumers of champagne on planet Earth, more than the French who make it. There are parties you attend in some places where the only drink is champagne. Of course, the individual is free to spend his money, but his money comes from Nigeria's commonwealth. So on imports, it will take a while for us to get used to local goods and accept that we should consume what we produce and produce what we want to consume. I take your point. We have to take stern measures to cut down on imports because these young boys and girls who have no jobs today are not going to allow us to carry on enjoying life at their expense. They need jobs. They need jobs. They are children. They've graduated, they've come back home to begin a second childhood because there's no factory to employ them. And the ministries can't take any more. But somebody is making sure you fail when you want to produce at home.